It's mind-blowing. It's historic. If you follow Cuba, this is like, I people don't understand the significance of yesterday. It's just, after 62 years, the first time masses has gone against, largely against the government.
I was hoping you would just give a quick summary of what's happening and a little background to why it's happening and like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, so it's no secret that Cuba has lived under the same government for 62 years, where people are not allowed to have election, not allowed to elect their own leaders. They're not allowed to freely protest. All media is controlled by the state. When there is independent media, they have to be careful about what they say. Many times dissidents or anyone that's against the government gets jailed immediately. There's been a lot of not only apathy in Cuba, but also a lot of people who are scared, right, to come out, and because they see what has happened to other people who have done the same. So it's been like building, right? It's been this continuous build for everything from the special period to now what's going on in the pandemic. It's a now, because there's a new president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, and nobody really knows who he is. He was just kind of put there. And so he doesn't garner the same respect in many ways that Fidel or Raul had, right? So I think people have been a little bit more critical of him. Then we had the pandemic that hit, and then the economy kind of just collapsed because they rely so much on tourism. Coupled that with the embargo, which also does not help. But really, there's so many internal domestic Cuban policies that have devastated the country, including some of the policies they have implemented during the pandemic, where they're giving fines for anyone who's even fishing, 3,000 pesos, which is like a whole month's salary. So, people are just trying to survive at this point. And so I think yesterday was just such a buildup, right? And then what happened was they started the campaign SOS Matanzas, because people were literally dying on the street. There's no hospital beds, there's no medicine, there's nothing in Cuba. There's huge lines just for food. And then it got to a point where people are just so tired of the excuses the government has been making in general. But COVID is the one that kind of broke the straw on the camel's back.
Like people are they're not getting food, they're not getting supplies, they're not getting vaccines, they're not getting anything. Things are just boiling to a point where they just don't care, and they're just like, I've had enough.
Yeah, I think they're just at a point where there's just no way to get food, there's no way to get medicine. The Cuban government has been denying any international aid because that doesn't, it doesn't respond well to their international propaganda that that socialism has been so great for Cuba. And so people are just so fed up. And then it just started in a little neighborhood outside of Havana, and if it wasn't for the internet, this wouldn't have blown up. And then from there it grew to Havana, it grew to Santiago de Cuba, to Pinar del Rio. And there's a map, I think maybe you've seen it, of all the hot spots where there were protests yesterday. And it was almost the entire country. We have never seen that in 62 years. And it was historic to see.
And now, I mean, obviously there's people that are not only in Cuba that typically stay away from this stuff. They're not dissidents. They're just right here in the States and everywhere. Everyone's kind of now coming on board and being like, okay, something's got to happen, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so what is that? I guess that's my big question, is like, where does this go now? How do we get out of this? Obviously we want to get out of it in a good way, but like, how does that happen?
I don't know. I don't have the right answers either. My personal opinion is I would not like to see U.S. military intervention in Cuba. I would like to see this change come organically. So to create any permanent change on the island, I feel like it needs to come organically. That it's not okay, it's not cool. It doesn't matter where you fall politically. It's just not acceptable that this is happening in a country that many people love. Many people have family. There's such a great connection between Cuba and the United States. I don't know where it's going to go from here. They're saying that there's police everywhere. So I don't know if people are just so scared to go out again because they were beating people, they were pepper spraying people. And I don't know if the audience knows this, but you know, Cubans don't have any guns. So, I mean, largely it's non-violent. They can't really do anything. So they were, you know, pepper spraying non-violent protesters. So people are scared. I don't know what's going to happen today, but I feel like we should keep this pressure